Super Random Japan. Nani?
Look, over there. Is it a celebrity? A famous politician? No, it's Charisma Man! In my last video, I spoke of the troll streamer Johnny Somali and his idiocy and cockiness while streaming in Japan. Part of this cockiness is his own character, but it's not fully his fault. He fell victim to what many people do when they first visit and experience Japanese culture. It's time to tell you the story about Charisma Man, a trope of foreigners, especially men, when visiting and living in Japan.
Back on his home planet of Canada, our hero was just another average guy.
Geek, dork.
But when he landed on planet Japan, he became Charisma Man. Watashi wa Charisma Man desu. But can our hero defend himself against his archenemy, Western woman?
Dork, geek.
I first heard of this in 2004, but I think the story started in 1998 with a comic. Anyway, I heard it in 2004 when studying abroad. An Australian girl told me the story, and while she told it way better, I can't remember, but went something like this. He began as a mild-mannered man, average or less in his own country. However, upon setting foot in Japan, he was endowed with a new power he was unaware of. People started complimenting him. Women giggled at his every word, and everyone wanted to be his friend and share a beer, etc. This nobody transformed into the mighty Charisma Man, armed with newfound confidence and a feeling that he's always the most important person in the room. He can do no wrong, every skill is amazing, and all women want to be with him. Or so he thinks. You may have guessed, but this arrogance and sense of greatness happens to many people. I'll break down why this happens, including catalysts like the politeness of Japanese culture, combined with their fascination with Western culture, as well as with it being rare to find foreigners in many places, though that obviously changes yearly. It's been almost a decade since I left Japan, so please let me know in the comments below whether or not this is still a thing, and to share your own experiences either being or meeting Charisma Men. But I'm assuming it is still a thing, since YouTubers and others are getting a lot of fame and attention in Japan. Worst of all, they're doing stupid things with little to no repercussions in Japan and gaining bigger audiences worldwide. So the first reason I think people become cocky in Japan is obviously due to the country being so damn polite, with heavy focus on the service industry and pleasing people. Guests are always treated like royalty in a shop, in a home, or in the country in general. It's hard not to feel amazing when everyone bows and welcomes you everywhere. If you really want to feel like a king or queen, go to a Japanese department store when the doors first open in the morning. The entire staff is standing in their respective departments and they bow in unison as the first guests enter, like dominoes falling in your favor. Heck, they even bow and greet you when entering McDonald's. I mean, come on, Japan. I'm getting a sausage McMuffin, not a Cartier watch. Settle down. It's not just employees. As a former Starbucks barista, I was shocked to always see customers in Japan ordering basic drinks from the basic menu. It was the first time I saw anyone ordering a tall mocha instead of something like a decaf, double tall, non-fat, no whip, 4-pump, extra hot mocha, or whatever. I told Japanese people you can customize everything, and they said, oh no, I wouldn't want to bother them. What? If you really want to see some weird stuff, go to a maid cafe. This'll be a whole future video topic, I'm sure, but basically, it's cute girls in French maid costumes attending to your every need. When you enter, they say, "Okaeri nasaimasu, go shujin-sama," or "Ojo-sama" for women. which essentially translates to "Welcome home, master."
お嬢様のご入国です。ようこそメイドリーにイエーイ。それではお席ご案内いたします。どうぞ。
And they do things like write messages on your food, play cute games with you, do poses, etc. It's weird, but feeds into the culture of subservience. It's not even sexual. Well, it's mildly sexual. It's just to make you feel superior and in control. Oh, and there's cabaret clubs, or kabakura. They're also a place where men can pay to have women sit with them and adore being in their presence. It's something only in Japan, and yet another video topic for the future. I gotta stop spoiling topics, so let's move on. Another big cultural aspect that feeds Charisma Man's power is the interest in Western culture. Especially after World War II, Japanese wanted to rebuild and be as powerful as America, and especially while being occupied by American forces. They kept taking Western culture influences and perfecting them, such as automobiles, electronics, etc. They loved Western movies, music, and so on. That, added with the fact that foreigners were rare, made the presence of a foreigner special. Again, I'm sure foreigners are more common now, especially in big cities. However, until the 1800s, Japan was totally closed off from the world. Even afterward, they've always had strict immigration policies. It's a big reason their birth rates are at critical levels. Anyway, this means that foreigners have always been somewhat rare, and thus exciting to meet. If the foreigner is attractive, speaks Japanese, and so on, it's even more amazing. They do all they can to savor the experience of meeting them. This makes said foreigner beam with self-importance. Some people feel uncomfortable with the attention and feel it's borderline racist. However, I'm ashamed to say, I'm in the other camp. This tells my age, but I've always said that when I was there, I felt like a backstreet boy. People snuck pictures, told me how cool I was and that I must have many girlfriends, etc. They were wrong, but it felt pretty great. One funny thing is that they tell you that you look like a celebrity. They pick someone with a similar build and hair color. I always got David Beckham and Brad Pitt because I was fairly fit and had blonde hair. It was beyond inaccurate, but I wasn't going to complain being in that company. My friend was balding, but since he had brown hair and was in good shape, he got Tom Cruise. When I visited him years later, he shaved his head completely by that time, but he was telling everyone, I look like Bruce Willis, right? And I was like, man, you pick your own celebrity now? Get a life! Oh my gosh. Anyway, as you can see, Japan is the place to boost your confidence, especially if you're a male. After all, Japan is a very male-dominated society. However, the funny thing is that it creates some competition. It's super weird, but when you cross another foreigner in Japan, there's a mild aura of nuisance. Like, dude, you're ruining my hustle. This is my turf. Usually, if you meet someone from where you're from, you get excited and share stories about your experiences. But in Japan, it's like, go away, or they'll realize that it's normal for foreigners to know how to use chopsticks and speak a couple random Japanese phrases. I'm totally gonna miss out on my daily quote of sugoi and jouzu desu ne. Japan loves to compliment and never like to put people down. Abroad in Japan even noted how Japanese TV shows involving food never criticize it. It's always oishii or umai. Even if it's not good, they'll never say it. They'll say things like oishii kamoshirenai or omoshiroi. They're basically just saying like, oh yeah, this is interesting, or what a unique flavor, or whatever. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. One of my notable examples of the Charisma Man was with my first roommate when teaching in Japan. He was Australian and a clear nerd. Don't get me wrong, I related to the guy massively. We both loved car culture, and so we went to drift events together and whatnot. However, he was a photo geek. He had a belt that carried half a dozen camera lenses, etc. When we went to events, I was embarrassed as he had bags of equipment and his general personality was quite nerdy. However, as with most charisma men, he got several Japanese girlfriends. However, when he was ready to leave Japan, I could sense he was terrified, as if he knew he was about to go back to being regular. Though Charisma Man is often a negative thing, there are positives. One of the students I studied abroad with was a balding, overweight, stuttering nerd in America, but he gained enough confidence to come out of his shell without being cocky. He was fun and confident, and even though he had the frequent bad joke, he was lovable. He truly grew as a person in a way he never could have in America. I was super happy for him. One other thing people may discover in Charisma Man's power is the idea of playing the Gaijin card. The Gaijin card is the idea that when you are backed into a corner by a business owner, citizen, police, etc., you claim ignorance because you don't know the language or culture. I sadly played the Gaijin card myself several times. One time in particular was when I and my roommates were having a barbecue party in a local park with friends, where fire wasn't allowed. When police came, we claimed ignorance and pretended we couldn't speak Japanese, and so they gave in, likely due to paperwork and not knowing who to charge, and so they left, and we kept barbecuing and shooting fireworks. Another time was during one of my farewell parties. A group of Westerners and Japanese people all went to karaoke, or karaoke for all the Westerners. This will be for a future video. Anyway, though haggling does not exist in Japan, we somehow negotiated a deal in which we got all-you-can-drink liquor, 4 beers, all-you-can-eat ice cream, and karaoke at $15 or 1,500 yen per person per hour. Upon negotiating successfully, we all celebrated, and interestingly, the staff themselves smiled and seemed amused by the transaction and our general glee. One of my favorite times using Charisma Man power was at a maid dart cafe. Japanese men were paying to play darts with cute maids. However, my friends and I just wanted to play darts together. It was cheaper than playing against the maids, and we got really competitive. Next thing we knew was that our joy spread to the maids, and even men who paid to play with the maids were getting ignored as the maids were watching and cheering for our game. I felt bad for the men, but still felt like a celeb in my own right. Okay, enough gloating and reminiscing, you get the idea. Charisma Man has been a thing for at least several decades, and shows no signs of weaning. For anyone who lacks self-confidence, I highly recommend you visiting Japan. For anyone who thinks they're amazing after visiting Japan, calm the fuck down. You're nothing special.